Hi everyone and welcome to another Upsize Down video. I'm Daniel Lott from True North Tiny Homes. I apologize for being so long between videos, but we've been working on a huge project. I'm super excited about it, but I can't say too much more than that. So stay tuned. December 1st, 2020, we can release all of the information. It's gonna be awesome, it's gonna be huge, and it's gonna push this tiny home movement far forward within Ontario. So I'm super excited about that. Get all of your friends to subscribe to our videos and they can learn about it at the same time as you. Also stay tuned in our Instagram channel. Today we want to talk about 5 things to consider before moving tiny. There's a myriad of other things to think about and consider along the way, but there's 5 big ones that we want a lot of our clients to think about and really consider. So stay tuned and we'll talk about each of them.
The biggest question to ask yourself is if you're ready to simplify your life. So much has to be downsized and pared down in order to fit into a tiny home. Now, we have clients who have said, I only own 1 spoon. Great, you're gonna fit in a tiny home, no problem. But we've had others who have been collecting stuff for many years and are gonna have to very much pare down in order to fit into a tiny home. And you have to ask yourself if you're ready to do that. Are you ready to simplify your life? And that's where our simplification workshop comes in. That's the first one in our series to make sure that your mindset is in the right place so that we can design you the right home for the stuff that's important for you. And we go through each room and we go through each item and we figure out what do you want to keep, what do you want to donate, and what do you just want to throw away or should you throw away and never think about purchasing ever again. The biggest question we get asked is, where can I put my tiny home? But we actually want to turn that around back to you and say, where do you want to put your tiny home? Where do you want to live? Because depending upon the area, the province, the state, the municipality you want to put it in is going to change the different laws and rules and regulations that we have to follow for that area. So we'll ask you, which area do you want to put it in? And then we'll look into the specific bylaws and regulations for that area and see what we have to do. For instance, you might want to put it in your friend's backyard or your mom's backyard, and that's going to be as a secondary dwelling, which in the same area will follow different regulations of whether it's a primary dwelling. So perhaps you want to find vacant land, and you're going to put it on that vacant land, and now it's a primary dwelling, and we fall into a whole different set of rules as if you were building a big house in that area. But one of the biggest things that changes is minimum house size. A lot of areas don't have minimum house sizes for the secondary dwelling, but they do for the primary. But then again, a lot of municipalities are getting rid of that minimum house size. So it's opening this up for us so much more. So that's where our second workshop actually comes in, and that is the land workshop. And that's where we're going to look into all these bylaws and suggest this is the size that you need for this area, and this is the things you want to consider, and this is what the municipality is going to require of you for servicing and that sort of thing. Another sub-question to that is whether you're going to buy land or lease it. Perhaps you're going to find a farmer and you're going to lease that land off of him in the back 40 and hide it from other people if you don't care so much for the regulations. But you are going to want to know, how am I going to structure that deal with the farmer, and how am I going to pay for this, and who's going to be paying for the well services and that sort of thing. We're going to guide you through all that. But the other thing is, are you going to purchase land somewhere? Because then you're definitely a primary residence. You're definitely going to be looking at probably doing a building permit for that area, unless you have regulations in that specific area that say under a certain size of house and over a certain size of property doesn't require a building permit. We had a similar situation when we sold the Millennial and we brought it to the other side of Quebec. Because of the size of the land that this owner purchased, it was over 1,000 acres. And because of the size of the Millennial, which was under 20 square meters, he didn't need a building permit. And he was allowed to have so many of these on his property. Not as many as he wants, but a certain restricted number based on the size of the property. That's something that's also very prevalent throughout the United States. Putting in a smaller house on a bigger property allows you to get away with not having to have a building permit. Not so much in Ontario, but there's still a lot of different nuances that go into whether you're purchasing the land or renting the land. Another interesting thing, which will bring us into the next question, is that when you purchase the land and you purchase one house and you put the one house on the one piece of property, it opens up financing. So this leads right into the next question. How am I going to pay for this? And so we alluded to this earlier. The easiest way to pay for it is to sell a current house or condo and use the equity to essentially pay True North Tiny Homes cash to pay for your tiny home. We have some clients that have enough equity in their current dwelling to not only pay cash for their own tiny home, but to also go significantly far into a second tiny home and rent that out for revenue. So now their money is working for them instead of them working for their money, which is where everyone wants to be, of course. But what if you don't have that much equity? Well, let's say the average tiny home is $125,000 Canadian, which it is, and you only have $100,000 or equity or savings or whatever it might be. That extra $25,000 is probably doable by most people's credit score to be able to go to your bank and to get a personal line of credit to pay for the difference. Worst case scenario is you can probably get enough credit cards together and get cash advances on them to pay for it, although that's way too high interest if you ask me. But there's another way that to get that $25,000. Maybe you have a friend or a family member who's willing to loan that to you. However, they're going to get it. Maybe they have cash, but maybe they're going to pull equity out of their house. So they have an $800,000 home, but they only have a $500,000 mortgage. They have $300,000 equity in there that maybe they can take a little bit out, that $25,000, or maybe it's the other way around and they have to take the $100,000 out and loan it to you. So our ideas, and we've had a few successful clients that have been able to do this, is to ask really close family members or really good friends to do that for you. And we always suggest that you make it a win-win situation for both of you. So they're going to be able to pull that equity out on a home equity line of credit and pay typical mortgage rates, which today is only about 2%. So if you agree to pay them 4 or 5%, then they're making money on this transaction. And you're not paying that bad of an interest rate, because the alternative is that I find you private lending and you're going to be paying more like 10, 12, 14% interest. So you paying 4 or 5% interest is much more beneficial to you than paying a much higher interest rate, and it's beneficial for your family member or your friend because they're only paying 2%, so they're making 2 or 3% on their money. Win-win situation. That's what we want to be aiming towards here. The last question that you want to ask yourself for today, I mean, there's hundreds of other questions you could ask, but the last question you want to ask yourself today is, how often am I going to move this tiny home? Yes, tiny homes are made popular on wheels through the US because of the regulations of not needing a building permit if it's on wheels and is under a certain size, and that's great. But a lot of places in Ontario, for instance, don't have that same rule. So, can it be on wheels? If it is on wheels, maybe you can't get a mortgage on it because it's not deemed to be a building, right? So if you're going to buy that vacant land and you're going to put one tiny home on it, it's got to be on a foundation because it's got to be the house, not a mobile home or RV or anything else that would be deemed to be on wheels. But the other thing is, wheels cost a lot of money. The average trailer that I'm buying now is about $10,000. There's a trailer that I'm currently working on that's going to be, just the trailer is going to be about $20,000 or more, but that's not average. The average is $10,000, but the average foundation I can get you by using a steel helical pier that drills into the ground is only $3,000 to $5,000. So I can put 2 foundations in for every trailer. So it's more cost effective in the end for you for me to build a house, put it on our trailer, bring it to you and put it on a foundation there and take my trailer back, and I'll use that same trailer to transport someone else's house. If you're going to move it every 6 months or every year, then it might be more beneficial for you to buy the trailer yourself. Even if you put it on a foundation or blocks or piers or whatever it might be nice to have that trailer so that you can move it yourself later. But if you're not going to move it until 2 or 3 years, then it would be more beneficial for you to put it on piers, and in 2 or 3 years, call us back. We'll bring the trailer to you, put the house back on the trailer, drive it to the next spot, and put it on a foundation there. The steel helical pier system is kind of neat because we can actually unscrew it from the one property and then screw it back in from the next property, so you can actually reuse your foundation. It's not as cheap the second time when you do it that way because now there's labor on both ends, but it can still work. However, there are some places, like the Millennial for instance. We took the Millennial to the other side of Quebec, and the regulations there were that if the house was small enough and it was mobile, he didn't need to get special permissions from the township to put the tiny home there. He registered that it's there, so it's legal, but he didn't have to get that special permissions or a building permit to look into it. So now we're looking at a little bit more like what I was talking about happened in the States and why tiny homes became popular. There are certain places in Ontario as well that have a similar thing. If it's under a certain size and it's mobile, you can get away with a bit more than if it goes slightly over. So these are all those regulation things, again, talking about where do you want to put it, that we want to look into. A lot of people talk about parking their tiny home, and that's because they're thinking about it on wheels. But the only place we can park a tiny home in Ontario, for instance, is on an RV park or a mobile home park, but neither of those can be deemed to be a permanent residence. So is that the right thing to do for you? These are all questions you're going to want to ask yourself. How are you willing to live? If you're a snowbird and you're going to live half the time in Florida or Mexico, then it doesn't need to be a permanent residence, and you can very well park it in an RV park and not have to worry about it. But then we're going to want to register how that gets built. It's going to be built to different codes. It's going to be registered differently when we build it. So these are all things you want to prepare yourself with before you start building, even before we start designing, because how is it going to fit in? So again, I'm going to point you back to our method and our process as well that takes you through our method, through a series of workshops that makes you think about all this stuff every week for 5 weeks in a row. How am I going to do this? What's my thought process on that? Which leads me into the next thing, which leads me into the next thing. And now I have a tiny home that's designed and built specifically for me and my situation where I want to be.
Thanks for joining us on today's discussion as we talked about 5 things to consider before going tiny. Hope you enjoyed the content. Comment below on the points that touched you the most and that resonated with you the most. And also below are the links to all the content that I talked about in today's video. Stay tuned for the other parts of that exciting announcement that we have coming up December 1st, 2020. Thanks again for joining us, everyone. Remember, I'm Daniel Ott. This is Upside Down, where we turn housing on its head.